The closed-door trial of Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich on spying charges is underway in Russia. The U.S. Embassy in Moscow slammed this trial, saying Russia has failed to provide any evidence and that he is being used as a political bargaining chip. Gershkovich appeared briefly before the trial began in a glass cage, but made no comments. The American reporter is being tried on espionage charges and faces a sentence of up to 20 years in prison. Prosecutors accuse him of gathering secret information for the CIA about a company that manufactures tanks. Gershkovich and the Wall Street Journal have denied these allegations. Let's dig a bit deeper with one of Evan's friends and colleagues at the Wall Street Journal. Gráinne McCarthy is the chief digital editor for international news, and she joins us from London. Gráinne, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Gráinne, it's an image we've seen before, but it feels different today now that the trial has started. Take me to that moment you saw those images of him in the glass cage. He's so thin now. What was going through your mind?
Oh, it's an absolute gut punch. It's been a very emotional day for all of us here in London. It started off super early when we got eyes on Evan. And yeah, as you note, this is something we've sort of seen over the past 15 months. Where we would occasionally get glimpses of Evan in this glass cage, which is like a feature of the Russian courts. And it's really hard to see, but today does feel different. He's in a different courtroom. He's in a place called Yekaterinburg in Russia, about 900 miles from Moscow. So it was hard to see him. His head was shaven. But, you know, he was wearing a lovely plaid shirt. He always wears plaid shirts, and he still had a smile on his face. And so it's kind of heartening and heartbreaking at the same time.
Can I talk to you about that smile on his face? What, you know him, what does that indicate? Is that indicating, hey, we're going to get through this? Or is it nervousness? What do you think is going through his mind?
No, and I think I should just state first and foremost that this is a sham trial and based on a false accusation and a baseless accusation against Evan, who is an incredible journalist who was accredited to work in Russia by Russia's foreign ministry. Evan is also an incredible person. He is really gregarious. When I see Evan smiling, I think that's him. That's Evan. Evan was living here in London before living here in London and going in and out to Russia on reporting assignments. So we know Evan well. We used to see him around the office all the time. We hope to see him back here soon. So when I see him smiling, it sort of tells me that he is staying strong and that we should all stay strong with him and for him.
When was the last time you were able to speak to him?
Well, there's been no direct contact. We've had no direct contact with Evan since he was arrested. It'll be 15 months ago on Saturday. So he does have direct contact with lawyers on the ground in Russia, very brave individuals, but he has no direct contact, for example, with our legal team in New York, or with, he cannot speak to his family. The way we've been communicating and been in contact with Evan over these past 15 months is by writing letters to him, all of which get read and by a censor, but eventually do get to Evan, and Evan is able to write back. So it's like an indirect way of being in contact with him. He's been playing a long-distance game of chess with his dad, for instance.
Oh, he is able to write back to you. So what is he able to communicate in those letters, or at least what is the information you're able to receive from him?
I mean, all sorts of people write to Evan. Thousands of people have written to him, whether they are people that close friends who write regularly, or family, or colleagues, or Wall Street Journal readers, or Americans, or people around the world who've never met Evan and are just moved by his situation. So he's a massive sports fan. He's a Arsenal, Mets, Jets fan. He's a really great cook. Big into all types of sports. So people write to him, and then he writes back, and you can sometimes pick up on his sense of humor and get a sense of how he's doing. It's often just everyday stuff. For us, for those of us writing to him, his everyday has been rather static for 15 months.
Evan represents so much more than his own circumstances. There has been the Free Evan campaign, it's huge international event that took place for many, many weeks, where people who support the freedom of the press, freedom of journalism, and stand against what, at least in this instance, certainly the Russian government is doing to the freedom of the press. Talk to us about that. With Evan comes a much bigger issue at hand. Break that down for us a bit.
Yeah, and we at the Wall Street Journal greatly appreciate all of the support we've got from across the media spectrum, but beyond, and really we've been staying so active in keeping Evan's name front and center. And partly it's because of him. It's because of the person who is in prison and knowing that people are advocating for him. It's also really for his family, who are incredibly brave individuals and real ambassadors for their son and brother. They put out a statement today in which they said that they miss him desperately. They're deeply disappointed that he will have to endure further attempts to discredit him. So part of it is that, but also to your point, it's about a free society. Vladimir Putin has made clear that journalism is not something that would be tolerated. Journalism, as we know it, is not something that would be tolerated in Russia. He's been increasingly clamping down on all aspects of the press. And that is, in turn, an assault on freedom itself and a free society. So that is what is at stake here. It's getting Evan's freedom, but it's something that's larger.
Okay. Gráinne, we've got a little bit of background noise, but we are going to leave the conversation there. Gráinne McCarthy, thank you so much for your time. We wish you, the whole team, and Evan all the best.